Aaron Rodgers is done with the New York Jets. It broke on Sunday, on Super Bowl Sunday, that he was informed by the team that they're likely going to be parting ways. Part of what came out today, though, Diana Rossini had reported on that there was a conversation between him and the Jets when Aaron Glenn was hired, that he flew to New Jersey to talk to them. Part of the conversation was that there's no more of this, that you're above the team, that you have to be a full participant in training camp, that there's no more of you going on Pat McAfee and doing those appearances. That probably was the end of that conversation, and now we're going to see him end up elsewhere, because there's only one person who loves Aaron Rodgers the most in this world, and that is Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
I don't even really know what the best fit for him is here. Is he just going to be a Steeler? Is that the best that we can come up with? The Browns don't make any sense because their financial situation's an S show, and if they get rid of Myles Garrett, what are we doing with that going forward? I think that Rodgers is smart enough to realize that that is not a situation that is going to be immediately successful. What other team is desperate enough to need a quarterback that they're like really going to give him a shot outside of Pittsburgh that has been rumored to want to move on from Russell Wilson?
I think that the noise around the Tennessee Titans is surging for Aaron Rodgers. I think it could make sense if you feel like you either don't want Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward with that number one pick. Maybe you draft Travis Hunter. Maybe you find some other talented player that you like and trade back and just suffer another year of Rodgers. Not going to be great, but if you can bring Devontae Adams with him also, we're looking at it's still not good team, but a better offense than what they had this year by a million.
It's so stupid, but it's the one that does like really make the most sense.
If Will Levis was any better, Aaron Rodgers retires. But since the bar was set so low in Nashville, and it has to make sense. Like, how could he not improve this team? He would. He at least wouldn't make the mistakes that Will Levis made, or at least not look as bad making those mistakes. I think that it's got to be Tennessee. And also, maybe he starts, maybe he's awful, and then you have Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward step in and not have to be a day one starter. Let them get their feet under them a little bit.
That's a fair point that you could draft Cam Ward, but man, I would not want Cam Ward learning from Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, I think
personality-wise,
no. Gameplay-wise, maybe not a better quarterback to learn from if I'm Cam Ward and I want to throw that ball all over the place.
They're just such different personalities as we've seen from Cam Ward's TikToks that we will not talk about. But Mark brings up a really good point. If history repeats itself, Rodgers will do better on his third team than his second, mentioning Brett Favre. He's obviously not going to the Vikings. That's been the recurring joke of like, hey, whoa, what if he ended up with Minnesota? That would be hilarious, and that would be perfect. But if we're trying to recreate the Brett Favre path, what team fits that? Because when he went to the Vikings, they had a good roster. They had Adrian Peterson at the time. They had a pretty good defense, and they were competitive enough to be in contention for a Super Bowl. They just needed Favre to get over the hump. And I do remember those Jets Favre years. Those were awful. Plus, He was a total piece of shit off the field for everything that he did.
He was messing around. He was not focused on football.
But to the worst possible extent, he was very inappropriate with the way that he was conducting himself. Aaron Rodgers was not the same way, but he was an incredible distraction. What would be the redemption final arc for him? Like, what actual team feels like, again, I keep coming back to Pittsburgh. You go to Pittsburgh, You go play for Mike Tomlin, who knew how to speak properly to Ben Roethlisberger at the end of his career when he was just a big dumpy oaf. And he got a ton out of him. Some of the last few years with Ben Roethlisberger, he had a couple really nice years before that last one when he looked awful.
Yes.
I think that there's a redeemable relationship that can happen between the two of them, and we could be scratching our heads at the end of the season going, how the hell did the Steelers get to the AFC Championship game? And why do we have to talk positively about Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, there's a couple options here. He could go back home, play for San Francisco. It would take a lot. It would take San Francisco to not pay Purdy, which they're going to have to figure out if they want to. And if you don't want to and you want a bridge quarterback, why not bring the kid home? You knew he wanted to go to you 20 years ago. That's a possibility for me. I think if Miami nutted up and said, hey, Tua, you're not making it work. Here's an offense. I know they're not.
Until McDaniel's out, they're not going to do that.
God, they should. That'd be great if Seattle maybe Vegas go ahead, drop by Vegas for a year, Aaron. Just have fun, play light, throw to Jacoby Myers, throw to Brock Bowers. He could get Brock Bowers 1,000 yards.
But like, is that
like I think it's just more realistic than if I was going to typecast him going to Seattle, which would be awesome.
Seattle
That'd
actually
be
be
sick.
Interesting. I kind of like the thought of that.
They're just still holding on.
A lot of these teams are holding on to quarterbacks who have just done enough.
Make the jump. Dive in. You'll be better for it than getting just 9 wins this year.